Today we are going to understand a little bit about partition literature. Now, to understand partition literature, we must first understand the Indian partition itself, because partition literature concerns the Indian partition and its impact on the human condition. So naturally, we have to understand the Indian partition itself. The tragedy of partition happened to India along with the Indian independence in 1947. Although the event of independence is seen as a triumphant event in the political history of India, the partition that came with it had a tragic impact on human life. Independence came at a much higher cost than it should have because of partition. This is evidently observed by Leonard Woolf in 1967 when he wrote, "I have no doubt that if British governments had been prepared to grant in 1900 what they refused in 1900 but granted in 1920, or to grant in 1920 what they refused in 1920 but granted in 1940, or to grant in 1940 what they refused in 1940 but granted in 1947, then 9/10 of the misery, hatred, and violence, the imprisonings and terrorism, the murders, flogging, shootings, assassinations, even the racial massacres would have been avoided. The transference of power might well have been accomplished peacefully, even possibly without partition." I am taking the quotation from Ramchandra Guha's India After Gandhi, chapter 1. You can read this book. This is a very good book about the history of India after independence, and the first 2 or 3 chapters are very crucial to understand the time of independence and, as we know, the time of partition, the immediate impact of partition, how it happened, why it happened, and how it impacted on the lives of common people, etc. So, to understand that time, you may read this book. This is a very good book. And to understand the impact of partition on the common people's lives, you may read another very good book, Urvashi Butalia's The Other Side of Silence. Okay, so these are the 2 books that I can recommend you. These are very good books, and if you read these books, you can get a very clear understanding of the time and the impact of partition. Now, moving on, India is a land of diversity in terms of cultures, languages, ethnicities, and religions. The partition of India was solely based on religious tension, aggravated by, firstly, the British colonizers, who always wanted to follow the divide and rule policy. Secondly, the political leaders' personal ambitions to highlight their names in the public mind of the time, as well as the history books of the future, and their lack of seriousness in considering the impact of dividing the nation on the common people. And thirdly, the people who became fanatics and lost their rational minds and followed the provocative situations to indulge in riots in the name of religions and national spirit. The British rulers wanted to break Indian unity, and it was natural for them as rulers. But some of our political leaders tried to gain more importance in history by actively supporting religious fanaticism. The rest of the leaders believed that there would be understanding and reconciliation eventually, that India would survive the temporary turmoil and would remain united in the end. They did not take the idea of the nation being divided seriously enough, and so we may say, after 7 decades of partition, that they lacked foresight, perhaps. On the other hand, the Indian public, mostly moved by religiously tainted political speeches of provocative nature, thought that their religions were in danger and that their community would be overshadowed or overpowered soon by the other community. Thus, the Muslims feared the Hindus and the Hindus feared the Muslims. And out of sheer fear, provoked religious fanaticism and lack of calm and educated or rational judgment, a huge portion of the common public broke into riots in the illusion of securing their religious existence and retaliating before they are overshadowed or overpowered by the other religious community. This is how riots occur. If you have seen Christopher Nolan's film Batman the Dark Knight, you must remember the scene where the Joker tries to provoke two groups of people to distrust each other and eliminate the other group to secure the existence of their own. In the film, perhaps because it is a fictitious story, the people do not attack each other. Although they are frightened, they are on the brink of losing their nerves, they decide not to attack the other first, just on the basis of a presumption that the other group is going to eliminate them. These fictitious characters choose to believe in the best positive thing that they can do, simply by avoiding the inhuman action that they are being provoked to do. They believed in humanity as a whole, but our dear forefathers were not such believers of patience, positivity, and humanity. They were believers of religions. And so, a prejudiced religious tension could easily provoke their irrational nature to turn them into the most violent, inhuman, destructive beings. The nation, in most of its parts, if not all around, got divided into us and them instead of we Indians. Yet, since India is a vast country with a huge part of the population struggling with their daily lives in the rural areas, riots did not break out everywhere until and unless rumors, fears, and provocations misled the countrymen. Riots took the cities first and spread through distant areas very rapidly through rumors, followed by endless attacks and counterattacks. This went on and on and on, and thus the two-nation theory got strong support in the form of statistics of deaths and destruction caused by the people of India. It was easy for the British rulers to consider dividing the country without considering the complicated environment. India was a nation where there were Hindus and Muslims in every village and every city. How could someone distinguish between the two by drawing maps? Of course, the British rulers were not interested to think about the impact of partition on the human condition, but our political leaders were not even keen to foresee the unparalleled predicament of mass migration, inhuman atrocities, and tragic losses that were to knock on the door at the break of the dawn of independence, which they were busy to take so much pride in. Now, let us look back at some statements by the statesmen or leading figures of the time to understand a little bit more about the prevailing thoughts and arguments regarding the religious diversity and unity of the nation. I shall put 3 quotations here to show the differing ideas regarding the unity of India as one nation of diversity, or the two nations or more merged into one in an illusion of unity. In the 1940 Muslim League presidential address, M.A. Jinnah said, "It is a dream that Hindus and Muslims can evolve a common nationality. And this misconception of one Indian nation has gone far beyond the limits and is the cause of most of our troubles and will lead India to destruction if we fail to revise our actions in time. The Hindus and Muslims belong to two different religious philosophies, social customs, and literature. They neither intermarry nor interdine together, and indeed they belong to two different civilizations which are based mainly on conflicting ideas and conceptions. Their aspects on and off life are different." So, based on this logic of difference and the belief that Muslims would be subjected to a Hindu Raj after the British Raj had ended, Muhammad Ali Jinnah propagated the idea of getting a different nation for the Muslim population of India. The second statement that I want to quote is from M.S. Golwalkar's We or Our Nation Defined. We or Our Nation Defined. M.S. Golwalkar was the head of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh and was strongly against the idea of a secular India that would not discriminate people on the basis of religion. According to his ideology, the non-Hindu people of Hindustan must either adopt Hindu culture and language, must learn and respect and hold in reverence the Hindu religion, must entertain no idea but of those of glorification of the Hindu race and culture. In a word, they must cease to be foreigners or may stay in the country wholly subordinated to the Hindu nation, claiming nothing, deserving no privileges, far less any preferential treatment, not even citizens' rights. So we have two different statements presenting arguments in support of differentiating the people of India on the basis of religion instead of considering everyone as just human beings with equal rights on earth. Jinnah said that there would be Hindu oppression of the Muslims after the British had gone, and Golwalkar aspired for the same. Whether Jinnah's statement was a bluff or a serious prophecy is still not out of debate as long as we look at the statement by Golwalkar. It is not about Jinnah or Golwalkar, not about two individuals, but about two beliefs regarding the nation before partition actually took place. We are talking about two statements here. One statement from 1938, another from 1940. So, these statements were given much before independence. Moving on. Now we can look at the third idea quoted from the 1940 Congress presidential address by Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. He says, "It was India's historic destiny that many human races and cultures should flow to her, finding a home in her hospitable soil, and that many a caravan should find rest here. 1100 years of common history of Islam and Hinduism have enriched India with our common achievements. Our languages, our poetry, our literature, our culture, our art, our dress, our manners and customs, the innumerable happenings of our daily life, everything bears the stamp of our joint endeavor. These 1000 years of our joint life have molded us into a common nationality. Whether we like it or not, we have now become an Indian nation, united and indivisible. No fantasy or artificial scheming can break this unity. Now, the idea of unity in diversity is clearly put into words in these lines. But we can also see how confident the Congress at that time seemed to be to protect India from partition, because this was another speech from the same year, 1940, when Jinnah gave that speech. So, Congress was pretty confident. At least it seemed to be confident enough to protect India from partition. We can call this confidence a hamartia that would end up in the catastrophe of partition, sugar coated with independence or the transfer of power. Now, we have discussed a little about the ideas and situations that led to the Indian partition. Now we should move on to discuss the process of partition and the catastrophic effect it brought to the people of the newly separated nations of the Indian subcontinent. We'll have to understand the partition award, or the drawing of the borders dividing Bengal and Punjab, splitting the provinces into halves. We'll have to understand the panic that struck the people, the mass migration that followed, and the loss, both concrete and abstract, that can never be quantified but has left an irremovable mark of injury in human history. After understanding these basic ideas clearly, we can delve deeper into the literature that is concerned with the human predicament called partition across the boundaries of India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. So, we will discuss these things in our next video. If you like this video, do like, share, and subscribe. Encourage me to make more videos so that I can carry on with the target that I have taken, that I will make videos on partition literature in depth and clearing all the concepts, all the texts. That is what I hope to do, and your encouragement means a lot to me. So, thank you.